It's day 2 of Royal Ascot. It's me, Rory Paddock. It is John Arnold. We're back again. Yesterday wasn't too bad a day. Obviously, Field of Gold did the business. Had time for myself and a few near misses. Hopefully, we can make it an even better day on day 2. It's Wednesday. It's on the nod. It is for Racing Daily. So, John, we're going to get stuck into things ASAP. Ladies are taking centre stage in the opener, the 2:30. It's the Queen Mary. I think it's 25 that are currently set to go to post. Right at the bottom of the card, obviously in alphabetical order, Zelena has a fantastic chance. We've got True Love representing Ryan Moore and the Ballydoyle team. We've got the American Raider, Lenny Liu. I want to hand over to you first. Where are you going? It's 25 runners. I mean, it's a difficult race at the best of times, but where are you nailing your colours to the mast, John?
Good morning. Yeah, I think you're right when you mentioned about the form lines. Looking at yesterday's race, the way that the Coventry Stakes was won by Gestad, True Love chased that home, so that's why Moore and True Love have gone into favouritism now for the race. But we also saw a good day yesterday from the Wetstown team, and Zelena is a good horse, and Zelena and Society Kiss were the two horses I put up on the preview for this race. And I'm going to stick with those two. I think that Zelena will run a big race, and I also think Society Kiss will be a good selection each way for Rafe Beckett and Hector Crouch. It's got course and distance form at the same track, so I'm going to go with those two, Zelena and Society Kiss.
So Zelena and Society Kiss there. I mean, yeah, Zelena, I think out there sort of more well-fancied runners. I couldn't put anyone off backing True Love. I mean, maybe the price has gone now. Zelena, I think, of those two is where I'd probably want to put my money. Again, the American horse, Lenny Liu, I think it's really hit and miss when you see horses come from overseas here at Royal Ascot. They're either superstars or they just completely flop. Again, I couldn't put you off backing any of those three, but I'm going to, in a race like this with 25 runners, if there's a bookmaker offering 6 places maybe, I want to go with 2 that both still have their maiden tags. Tentative, they come with a bit of a health warning. Tentative each way selections. Cardiff by the Sea, I'm a huge fan of. Trained by the Stack team. When it comes to the Stacks, they're absolute maestros when it comes to both sprinters and their younger horses. She finished behind the very, very talented Charles Darwin, who's favourite for a race later in the week. And she finished way ahead of the rest. Now she's up against her own sex. I think she's got a chance at a decent price. And just 2 stalls next to her, I'm going to go with Paris Carver from the Ammo Racing team. Finished 4th on debut. I'm not certain she'll appreciate a drop back to 5. That's my only worry. But I think she'll absolutely love the pace of the race if they're going to go off an absolute clip. David Egan has actually opted for a different Ammo horse. Normally that would be a bit of a negative, but more than capable replacement Ross O'Ryan is booked for the ride. So yeah, those are my 2. Again, very tentative, very small stakes each way plays in a race with a big field. Cardiff by the Sea, and obviously Paris Carver there in the 2:30. That's the Queen Mary. 3:05, got the Queen's Vase. I'm not completely sold on Ryan Moore's Mount Shackleton, but perhaps this extra distance will see improvement. I think you've got the unbeaten Karmas and Spinning Wheel. It might play a part. At bigger odds, I think Pinhole could be an outsider worth noting. And I couldn't put people off backing the Beckett horse, especially considering they're 4th at Chester behind the eventual Derby winner. If the ground was any different, I'd be absolutely all over the French horse, Asmarani. But it's not. It's just going to get firmer and firmer this week as the weather hots up. I think the Godolphin runner, Devil's Advocate, is also worth a mention, I think. And they look a horse that will relish this longer trip. Again, just like the first race, small, tentative each way plays. Nothing that I'm overly strong in this. But I want to go Pinhole and Devil's Advocate. Small stakes each way. Queen's Vase, John, where are we going?
I'm going to go with the variant horse, Rahib and I'm going to also go with Scandinavia, which is supposedly the second string for O'Brien with Wayne Lord riding it. It's a big price. So I agree with you. I'm not convinced by the horses at the top of the market, so I think I'll go with ones which are slightly bigger. So for me, it'd be Scandinavia and Rahib.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, it wouldn't be an absolute shock, is it, if you see a Ballydoyle second or third string pick up a race at any of the big meetings. It's happened many a time before. Yeah, like I said, anything at the top of the market, I'm not overly convinced. I mean, you may well win, but it wouldn't be a race where I'm getting out any sort of checkbook and remortgaging the house. Duke of Cambridge, that's the 340. Group 2 race. I hate to be a bit boring here, but I reckon perhaps we have one of the strongest favourites of the meeting. The way Cinderella's Dream won last time out. A repeat of that will see a handful of rivals with relative ease. Of the rest, perhaps One Look, and looking at the card, Running Lion could have a say. I don't want to be dismissive of Fallen Angel, but I reckon she'll find one or two too good. Cinderella's Dream, compared to the first two races, perhaps a much stronger fancy. Are you with the Godolphin horse, mate?
Yeah, I am actually 7 from the last 10. Done it on all different tracks. Yeah, I think they'll look to this to maybe kickstart their week because they haven't had anything on the board yet. So I'm going with Cinderella's Dream. That's my only selection in the race.
Yeah, it's one of those races, isn't it, where you look at the race and you kind of perhaps think, oh, maybe there's a bit of each way value in there. But sometimes when you see a favourite that's an obvious favourite, and there's nothing obvious when you're backing horses, but when it ticks all the right boxes and it looks like the winner and it acts like the winner and it's priced like the winner, sometimes it's just the winner. I'm probably guilty myself of going, no, there's got to be something, there's got to be value elsewhere, there's got to be, but no, it looks the favourite, it is the favourite, it looks like the winner. Would it be a massive shock if it didn't win? Probably not, but it's going to be there, isn't it? Barring something disastrous, you're going to get a run for your money. So that's the pair of us, Cinderella's Dream in the 340. 420 Prince of Wales Stakes. I'm going to let you kick this one off because this one is an absolute conundrum for me. I don't know where to go, what to do. So I will let a more seasoned and far better judge of horses than me kick things off, mate. John?
I think again, people have looked at the permutations between ANMAT and Map of Stars and Los Angeles, and people are trying to say, well, that should be reversed. The form should be reversed. I for many years we've seen O'Brien horses tough it out up that straight, and I think Los Angeles today will come through being the fitter horse of the field. So I am with Los Angeles. I napped it for the week for the charity bets, and I'm sticking with it. I think it's a superb horse when it comes to these tracks. It's racing the same way round as it does at the Curragh as well. So I'm sticking with Los Angeles. I think it will tough it out, and I think it's a winner.
Yeah, look, Los Angeles is on anyone's shortlist. It deserves to be, well fancied like it is. I think I'm probably in the camp. Am I? See, the fact that I have to think about it whilst we're recording, that makes things even easier, doesn't it? But I think Anmar might finish closer to Los Angeles. Am I convinced it'll reverse the form? No. Do I think those two are probably the standout two? Yes. Perhaps, a bit cruel on Map of Stars to discredit it like that. But I think for me, it's a really tricky one from a sort of punting perspective, not because I'm struggling with who I like, but more a case of how on earth I should bet in a race like this. Obviously, Anmar and Los Angeles, like I said, they meet again. You know, I just need the pair of them drawing clear of the rest. Is that too obvious? I don't know. Or do I avoid them both entirely and look for something else just to make the top three and hope one, if not both, of the other two sort of fail to deliver? If I had to go for an each way option, I think Ombudsman is probably the one. it's genuinely a toss of a coin in terms of what I'm going to do betting wise. I can't decide. So I'm going to say sod it. And you know what? It's not necessarily the sort of selection I'd put up, but go big or go home. I'm going to go all three in a combination tricast. Los Angeles and Anmat, an Ombudsman, finishing the top three. Obviously, one of those will let me down. But again, very, very small stakes. I wish I was as good as you, mate, but no, I'm going to go small stakes. Combination tricast on those three, just simply because I can't make up my mind. I know that was really unhelpful to anyone watching, but you'll be thanking me if it does come in. So there we go. We'll go with that. Next one, we've got the 5 o'clock. We've got the Royal Hunt Cup. Very, very competitive 1 mile handicap. You know, an absolute cavalry charge. I think I said just before we started recording, I am quite gutted. One of my more sort of fancied selections for the meeting was meant to be running in this Roi de France. Isn't entered. I think it runs later in the week. However, there are two who were sort of on my shortlist. They are thankfully taking up their entries. Karat, who seems to be the absolute proverbial bridesmaid, is finished second in his last 3 starts. I'm hoping Beckett's horse can go one better, and if not, then at least make the frame once again. I think it deserves to win a race of this nature, the amount of times it's been knocking on the door. At bigger odds, I like the look of Galeron. Not the most prolific, but really showed signs of promise in the Lincoln. I think he finished 5th there, and it was sort of a bit of an eye-catching run. Raced in Australia, so I'm hoping the ground will also be a positive. So one of those on the hunt at bigger odds, and you know, I'm gonna throw 3 into the mix just because of the amount of runners. I also think it's a bit of a sneaky plan with the Liffey. Moved from Father Aidan O'Brien's to son Joseph's yard. It's making his handicap debut. Got Ryan Moore booked for the ride. Ran in a listed race and did rather well. It had a really promising 3-year-old campaign. I know he's perhaps a bit naughty picking 3, but I can't get rid of the 2 horses from the shortlist because I know if I do, one of them will end up winning at a big price. And I just can't shake off how sort of intriguing or sort of potentially there's a plan that's been put in place for the Liffey. It has such big connections, it's hard to ignore as well. Those would be my 3. Again, probably small stakes each way in a race like that. Nothing to go big on. John, the Royal Hunt Cup.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the Liffey, because look at yesterday when Joseph O'Brien had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the races yesterday behind Henry de Bromhead. So people said yesterday it was like watching Cheltenham but on the flat. So I can see your point there. I think the Liffey would be a horse to back each way. The 2 other ones for me, Tony Montana ran a good race at Chester for Michael Bell, and there's been a lot of support for the horse in the last few days as well. I think Tony Montana will put up a good performance. And I also think Fox Legacy is worth a shout too, which has good form lines previously. So the 3 for me are Tony Montana, Fox Legacy, and the Liffey. They're the 3 for me.
Well, hopefully it's great minds think alike. Good sir. 5:35. We've got the Kensington Palace, another race over the straight mile. You've got top weight Rainbow's Edge, who ticks plenty of boxes, but whether or not that's too much of a hefty weight to carry. I think if they win this, then she's potentially a group horse in the making. You've got a Roller is another with a sort of solid chance for the Charlton yard. But I'm hoping it's one for Ireland as I'm siding with 2 that have come over from the Emerald Isle. Drawn on opposite sides of the track, so hopefully at least one of them gets a decent run. In stall 7, we've got Amo Racing's Kayana, who did well to finish 2nd after a really lengthy layoff earlier in the month. Now with trainer Gavin Cromwell, who knows how to get one ready for one of the big meetings. I think we saw with Snellen, who won at Ascot a year or 2 ago, who coincidentally is actually in this race. And the other one I'm opting for is, again, another Irish horse. Filled the runners-up spot last time in Serialis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jesse Harrington's runner has been ultra consistent seems to always run a decent race without necessarily winning. And I think she could potentially finish in the money again. So my two for the Kensington Palace, we've got Kayana and Surrey Elise there. Yourself, John?
The two for me, Julia Augusta ran a good race at Epsom last time, came third, so I think that's fit and ready to go again. And Sky Safari, I believe that's is that James Fanshawe trained Sky Safari. I think Safi Osborne is riding that for him, and that's got some decent listed form behind it. So I'm going to go with Sky Safari and Julia Augusta.
And last but by no means least, we've got the 610 at the Windsor Castle and yet another cavalry charge. 24 runners currently entered. And for me, there's nothing I fancy strongly in this. Again, if you're going to be following my selections, I'm going to put up two, but just to kind of give you, like, I've written down a short list as I always do when I'm analysing a race. I have a short list which I then narrow down. I'll rattle off how short my short list was. As is better and better. Dickensian, First Approach, Gaga Mate, Jan Steen, Kansas, Old is Gold, Rogue Legend, Tough Critic, and Utmost Respect. And I won't be surprised if the winner came from elsewhere. I've got little to no confidence, but if there was again, gun to my head and I had to have a bet and I had to pick something, Jan Steen and Rogue Legend each way, but your guess is good as mine. I genuinely hope you've got some sort of level of confidence in whatever you're picking here, John. I'd probably tell people who are watching this to avoid my selections like the plague. Because again, look, I might end up with first and second and happy days, but it'd certainly be more fluke than and luck than judgment. John, help me out with this one.
Rogue Supremacy for me. David O'Meara has really fought a lot of the horse, and I think O'Meara normally does quite well. He has a good record at Ascot, so I'm going to go with Rogue Supremacy. The other one that you mentioned in there, Old is Gold, which is a Watan horse. So I think that will probably push on as well. So the two for me, Rogue Supremacy and Old is Gold.
See, just as predicted, the one that you like wasn't even in my shortlist. So there you go. That shows how shocking my selections are with that. Obviously, those are all seven of the races from day 2, Wednesday's action at Royal Ascot. As always, any likes, comments, and shares. Make sure you head on over to racingdaily.com to see our full race previews from all the rest of the team. Thanks for your support. Keep watching and make sure you stay tuned for every day of this meeting where myself and John will run through the card each morning and hopefully bag a hat full of winners along the way.